No gun, no mask, no getaway car idling at the curb. Not even a computer, not really. No wires cut, no code cracked open by a machine. Just a man in a suit, a rotary phone, and a number he had memorized that morning. In about 12 minutes, that man is going to walk out of a bank he works for having stolen $10.2 million. 1978. The largest bank theft in American history at the time. And the bank won't even notice the money is gone. So tonight we're not solving a whodunit. We know who did it. We're going to stand in the room and watch him do it, minute by minute. Grab a coffee, partner. Start the clock. This is case file number 5, Rifkin. October 1978, Los Angeles. Late afternoon light on the front of Security Pacific National Bank. A man walks toward the doors, and the guards don't stop him because they've seen him before. His name is Stanley Mark Rifkin, 32 years old, soft-spoken, a computer consultant, the quiet kind, the kind nobody looks at twice. His company had a contract to build a backup system for the bank's wire transfer room, which means Stanley Rifkin had something worth more than a key. He had permission to be there. And here's the thing about the wire room. That was the beating heart of the whole bank. Every day, that room moved staggering amounts of money, millions, tens of millions, from one institution to another, all over the world. And in 1978, you didn't move that money with a password on a screen. You moved it with a code, a spoken code. A different one every single day. They called it the code of the day. Get the code, say it with confidence down a telephone line, and the wire room would send money anywhere on Earth. No signature, no face, just the number. So where did they keep something that valuable? On a slip of paper, taped to the wall. Because the code of the day never left the room, so who cared? Everybody in the wire room could see it, and on his visits, so could Stanley Rifkin. He didn't photograph it. He didn't write it down. He just looked at it the way you'd glance at a phone number, and he walked out with it in his head. That was the whole heist. Everything after this is theater. Now Rifkin finds a phone. Not his desk phone. A phone away from the floor where nobody's listening. He dials the wire transfer room, and when they pick up, he becomes somebody else. He tells them his name is Mike Hansen. He says he's from the bank's international division. To the person on the other end, that's completely normal. The international desk calls the wire room all the time. And then Mike Hansen, who does not exist, gives an instruction: move $10.2 million to an account at Irving Trust in New York. And then onward to the Waschad Handelsbank in Zurich, Switzerland. The clerk does the sensible thing. She asks for the interbank code, the number that proves you're allowed to do this, and Rifkin gives it to her. The code of the day, the one off the wall, that's the whole security system. That's the vault door. A number said out loud by a voice she's never going to see. And the voice has it right. So the money moves. Watch what just happened, because it's the entire case. Nobody hacked anything. Nobody broke in. A person trusted a voice on a phone because the voice knew the magic word. The weakest part of that whole bank wasn't the lock. It was the very human instinct to believe someone who sounds like they belong. $10.2 million leaves Security Pacific and lands at Irving Trust in New York, then jumps the ocean to Zurich. And here's the part that still stops me cold. The bank does not notice, not that afternoon, not that evening. The transfer looked routine because it was routine. A normal instruction, a valid code, a wire like 1,000 others. There was no alarm to trip, nothing was broken. The money was just quietly in Switzerland now. The early press reports even got the number wrong. Some said 8 million. Because for a while, nobody on the inside had a clean count of what had walked out the door. Think about that. The largest bank theft in the country's history had just happened, and the victim didn't know it was a victim. Stanley Rifkin had all the time in the world. so he got on a plane. Now, what do you do with 10 million stolen dollars sitting in a Swiss bank account? You can't exactly wire it home. Cash is heavy and traceable. Rifkin had a cleverer idea, and it is the strangest turn in this whole file. He turned the money into diamonds, working through a diamond broker and posing as a man from a company called Coast Diamond Distributors. Rifkin arranged to buy stones from Russell-Maz, the diamond trading arm of the Soviet Union. Let that sit for a second. This is the Cold War, and an American computer consultant, using money stolen from an American bank by telephone, is quietly buying a fortune in gems from a state firm of the Soviet Union. $8.1 million. 43,200 carats of diamonds, enough to fill a shoebox. And Stanley Rifkin packed them into his luggage, flew back into Los Angeles, and walked them through the airport like a man carrying home vacation souvenirs. So let's total it up. He stole 10 million by phone. Nobody chased him because nobody knew. He turned it into diamonds from behind the Iron Curtain and smuggled them into the country in a suitcase. At this exact moment in the story, Stanley Rifkin has committed a perfect crime. And then he opened his mouth. Here's the rule you learn on this wall. It's almost never the security system that catches these people. It's their own need to be admired. A secret this big burns a hole in your pocket. You have to tell somebody. Rifkin told the wrong somebody. He wanted to sell the diamonds, to turn the stones back into spendable money, and so he started talking about them, reaching out, showing his hand, to a man he'd known professionally, a former lawyer named Paul O'Brien. And O'Brien had seen the news. He put it together, this quiet consultant suddenly holding a pile of diamonds, right as the papers were reporting a giant bank theft. So O'Brien did what Rifkin never planned for. He picked up a phone of his own, and he called the FBI. The bank hadn't caught Rifkin. The Soviets hadn't caught him. The airport hadn't caught him. His own bragging did. The Bureau moved in. Agents worked the case toward a sting, and on November 5th, 1978, they arrested Stanley Rifkin at an apartment in Carlsbad, California. They recovered the diamonds. The perfect crime lasted a matter of days once he started talking. Now, you'd think that's the end. Man's caught, diamonds recovered, out on bail awaiting trial. Time to keep your head down and pray for mercy. Not Stanley. While he was out on bail, prosecutors say he lined up the exact same trick again. A second bank, the same phone and code routine, a fresh fortune. Except this time, there was an informant in the room. The plan collapsed before it started, and in February 1979, he was arrested a second time. Some people learn the lesson. Some people just love the trick too much to stop. On March 26, 1979, in a federal courtroom, the clock finally stopped on Stanley Mark Rifkin. He was convicted of wire fraud in 1979, and the judge handed him 8 years in prison. At the time, the longest sentence ever given for a computer fraud in the United States. He served about 3 of those years. He was released in May of 1982, and this is the case I keep coming back to because of what it isn't. There's no genius machine here, no wall of code. The most sophisticated tool in the entire $10 million heist was a telephone, and the second most sophisticated was a calm, confident voice. So what does Case File 5 leave us with? Just this. Every system you'll ever meet, a bank, an office, your own inbox, has one part that no lock protects, the human being who trusts a voice that sounds like it belongs. Stanley Rifkin didn't beat Security Pacific's technology. He beat its people. He said the right number in the right tone, and a fortune moved. Today they teach this case in security classes, and they've given the trick a name, social engineering. In 1978, there was no name for it. There was just a calm voice and a dial tone. They upgraded the codes after this. They always do. But the flaw he found isn't in any machine. It's in us. and it never got patched. This board's done, but there's a fresh file on my desk already. And this one's a crypto mine that never mined a single coin. It rented Lamborghinis by the weekend and filled ballrooms with people chanting its name. Case file 6 is already open. Subscribe, partner. Pull up a chair.